The color stabilizer effect is kind of a cool one. Its purpose is to stabilize your footage when there's some shaky color adjustments going on from frame to frame. So let's look at this footage here. Come over here to the timeline, hit the space bar. And you can see that there's some luminance variations. It's kind of stuttering a little bit, and from frame to frame, it goes light and dark and stuff like that. You often see this kind of luminance flickering in stop motion pieces where maybe the lighting in every single photograph or every single frame is not the same. So you could use color stabilizer to kind of unify the frame. So let's go ahead and apply color stabilizer here. Now, color stabilizer is basically kind of like a mini tracking system, like the tracker in After Effects, except it doesn't track. You have to basically animate the track points. So the way that it makes a consistent judgment and kind of brings all the frames into a harmonious whole here is by using these different points. Black point, midpoint, white point, etc. And you need to basically say where those points are and then animate them to follow along with your footage here. Now, under the Stabilize menu, there's basically three levels of stabilization. There's Brightness, which will allow you to only use a black point. There's Levels, which is black point and white point. And Curves, which is all three, black, mid, and white point. We're going to use the default of Levels. I'm going to click the Effect Control Point for black point. And it says black point, but you really don't have to put it in the black point. The thing is that you want the points, the black point and the white point, to be as distinct from each other as possible. So basically, the farther apart they are, the better results that you'll get. Now, I realize that putting the black point in the water here and putting the white point, as I'm going to do, is I hit the Effect Controls point, and let's put that maybe over here. I realize that this is not the darkest point, and this is not the lightest point, but I know that these 2 points are going to be pretty consistent throughout the shot. So if I were to put like a little tiny black point or white point in one of these buildings, or maybe there's white here or black in one of these trees here, that tends to change as the footage is moving. So I want something I know is going to be consistent throughout my footage. So these points will do well, and there's enough contrast here to do the job. Sample size is kind of like the sample size with an eyedropper tool in any program like Photoshop or what have you. Basically, it's saying what's the range of colors. And I really want that, say, here for the water, where if I have too small of a sample size, it's going to pick some maybe dark pixel or light pixel when these highlights or something like that could happen. So I want to increase the sample size, so it's basically going to take a big sample and average in a big group of pixels around it and kind of take the average color. So now what we want to do is probably animate the black point and the white point. But as for right now, I think it's okay as is. So let's go ahead and just hit the spacebar to preview our footage and see what we have so far. Already, it's definitely much better. However, when it gets to this one frame, it kind of freaks out. So we got some great consistencies. There's some weird ugliness going on here. Probably need to increase the sample size because we're getting too much of a variation here in the water. But pretty good all in all considering. And then as we get here, it just looks terrible. Folks, the reason is that I have my white point set here. And so when it runs into this big pipe thing and it sees this dark pixel, it's assuming that the footage as a whole is getting darker. And so it brightens up the highlights to compensate for the apparent darkness in the highlights. So you got to be careful of this with your black point and white point, that you don't run into little obstacles like this and kind of throw color stabilizer off. Now to fix this, we can do anything. We could come back here and then we could click the stopwatch for white point, for example, and then move in time and basically just animate it and just hop it over the little post there and just making sure, see, as it comes into contact with the post right there, it gets bad. So we can go like that. There we go. And now it kind of does this cool little hop over the obstacle that would otherwise mess up the color correction there. Now, it's not perfect, but it's definitely better than my original footage with its great variations in luminance. It did help to stabilize things out.